FIDE Grand Prix series is entering the home straight with the final few rounds taking place in Khanty-Mansiysk in Siberia. Realistically, there are just 3 players in contention for the 2 spots in the Candidates Tournament 2016. Fabiano Caruana, who's leading the tournament after 7 rounds, Hikaru Nakamura making a late burst, and Yevgeni Tomashevsky, who's not doing too well at the moment but has done well in previous Grand Prix tournaments. So let's have a look at how those 3 players got on in round 8. First up, we have Fabiano Caruana against Dmitry Jakovenko. Now, we joined the game after 35 moves. Caruana with the white pieces is a pawn up, but very hard to make anything of this pawn advantage. You can see that Jakovenko has very well coordinated pieces, well centralized, very healthy pawn structure. Caruana might be a pawn up, but I don't like the fact that his rooks are kind of split like this. This pawn is also isolated. So, yeah, very hard to make anything of this extra pawn. But he could still try here if he defends against this threat of queen takes a2 with maybe pawn to b3, pawn to a3, pawn to a4. All these moves are possible. But here Caruana played queen b3, which is really a terrible blunder. He's played so well in this tournament so far, but this is not a good move. He obviously overlooked some tactic after c4. Maybe it was this. After pawn takes pawn, black has this move, queen a5, threatening the rook and also threatening bishop takes knight, and black wins material and wins the game. And obviously after queen takes, this also loses because the knight can just be taken there. So Caruana had to play queen c3, losing this vital pawn, and look at that passed pawn, it's so strong, and added to that the knight on e4 has lost its big protector, so there's horrible pressure here, and Caruana loses a pawn, and now actually this is such a straightforward win for black with this dominant passed pawn on d3, and the fact that white's king is also really exposed, and now it doesn't take too much for the queen and rook to go in for the kill. Black's king, of course, completely safe behind these pawns and with the queen protecting on this diagonal. Well, let's just see the final few moves. Basically, Caruana's king was, well, mated up a tree here. Here Caruana resigned. There's the threat of queen g6 mate. There's also g6 mate. There's also rook e5. Too much. An absolute disaster for Caruana. So, well, let's see how his big rival Hikaru Nakamura got on. He was playing against Bahadur Jobava. We know that when Jobava plays, anything can happen, and this game was really, as usual, such an up and down affair. Nakamura had a winning position, but kind of messed up a bit. You can see Nakamura with the black pieces has a 2-pawn advantage, but they're double pawns, so it's not so easy to convert. Many people thought this was just a fairly easy draw for white, but no. Nakamura still has very good winning chances here. He played rook f6 check. And here, well, it seems that Jobava only has a forward gear. He doesn't like to go backwards. Here, of course, he should play king d5 and try to bring the king back. But as I said, I think in practical play, I think this still offers black good winning chances. But after the check, Jobava went forward with king e7, but now the king is cut on the 6th rank, and I think this is very tough. King g8 was played, just stepping out of this pin and ready to play knight f4 and advance the g-pawn. White can still try to defend this, but Jobava played knight takes g6, and this was just too rash. This transposes into a rook and pawn ending that is utterly lost. the white king cut off, can't get back, and now basically black's strategy is just to inch forward with the king supporting the g-pawn, and there's nothing that white can do. For example, rook h1, g5, the rook even goes behind the pawn, and then the king will come up to support that pawn. It's completely lost. You can see the king is completely impotent there on e7, can't get across the 6th rank. Jobava tried rook f5, but well, these moves are not that difficult for black to play. King g7, threat of rook here. Rook a5, again cutting the king, but also preparing to advance the pawn again. And well, let's just go through the final few moves, but it's not a difficult position to play. Okay, you just have to be a little bit careful. There was a threat of mate there, but the rook blocks, and again keeps the white king cut off. So cut off not only on the f file, but along the 5th rank as well. And well, here Jobava resigned. There's nothing he can do to stop black inching forward with the pawn followed by the king. It's utterly lost. So Nakamura keeps up the pressure, and he still has a chance to qualify for the candidates. Let's take a look at his rival, Yevgeni Tomashevsky. He had an excellent position against the Cuban, DOMINGUEZ. Tomashevsky with 2 extra pawns, but there are opposite colour bishops. So could Tomashevsky keep pace with Nakamura and convert this one? What he really wants to do is play e4 and f5 to create 2 connected passed pawns. But there is a problem with this move. Well, let me show you what he'd like to do. If black doesn't react here and white gets in f5, so that prevents the pawn advancing to f6, but actually white can achieve that advance by edging in with his king and then f6, and this is completely winning for white. The problem is, after white plays this move e4, black has e5, breaking up those pawns. Obviously, if pawn takes, bishop takes, complete draw, or f5, bishop takes g5, and if g6, well, careful, there's a threat, but black stops that, and black has a complete blockade of those pawns, so that's just a draw. So this is white's problem. Now, Tomashevsky shuffled round for, well, almost 20 moves, didn't really get anywhere, and well, you can see this is after move 86, nothing much has happened. Here he had one last roll of the dice. He took on e6. 3 connected passed pawns against king and bishop looks a bit scary. Actually, if black keeps his head, this is a complete draw. It's actually not that difficult to defend. Let's just go through the final few moves. Finally, Tomashevsky decided to advance. If the g-pawn advances, then bishop h6, and this is a blockade. There's no way forward. So Tomashevsky tried king h5, but I'm afraid these pawns aren't going anywhere. Repeating the position, finally f6, but this allows black's king in. And in this position, they agree to draw. Obviously, the bishop can just take the pawn, and that's that, just a draw. So that means that after 8 rounds, the standings are Fabiano Caruana with 5 out of 8. Dominguez has 5 out of 8, but he doesn't have any chance of qualifying. He didn't play well in the previous Grand Prix tournaments. So Caruana 5, Dominguez 5. Hikaru Nakamura now shares the lead with 5 out of 8. And after that draw, Tomashevsky drops further behind with just 3 out of 8. But there are still 3 rounds to play, and I'm sure there are going to be some twists and turns before the finish. The The next round is played on Sunday. Today is a free day, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday we'll have the last 3 rounds. I'll keep you posted.